Good morning and Happy New Year. Welcome to the first pleasure point of 2020. I'm super excited. 2019 was a year, right? Like, it was very interesting for me. It started off a little rough, but the end of 2019, honey, I went out with a bang. It was amazing. So I am looking forward to much more in 2020. I'm Jessica Van. I'm the host of Pleasure Point. Here, you're going to be getting some informational stuff. I do some relationship and sex counseling in my everyday life. This is just to share knowledge with you all on relationships, sex, parenting, what have you. Sometimes I just get on here and talk to you guys. So that's a little bit of background for people who are new around here. For those of you who've been rolling with me since 2019, y'all know how we do. Y'all know what's up. A little about myself. I am a licensed professional counselor associate here in South Carolina. Now, what does that mean? That basically means I am working towards my full licensure, which I will be done with in October. Yay! 2020, big things coming, right? So I'll be done with my full licensure, and then I'll be an LPC, and I don't have to throw in that A anymore. So today, guys, I am super excited to share with you my interview with the family behind P.orn and Parenting. Yes, porn and parenting. I spelled it correctly. So for some odd reason, you can't say porn on Instagram, but this is a family who is sex positive and just pretty much all around amazing. What makes them so special? Well, the parents, King and Jasmine, are in the adult film industry. And of course, people are so interested to know, well, how do you balance between being in this adult film industry, needing to protect your children from certain things, and being a regular parent? Well, what they do is they rock it, basically. So I sat down with them and I talked about all things parenting. Well, all things porn and parenting. How they kind of explain their profession, their roles in the adult industry, how they raise their beautiful children. They have two beautiful girls and a little boy. He is just 1 year old, so he's new to the crew, but I kind of found out he runs things. Just how they teach them self confidence, consent, things about their bodies. The long and the short of it, how do they incorporate sex positivity and just normal everyday parenting? So I had so much fun talking to them. I have basically decided that I've adopted them as my cousins. They have no choices. We are family now. So, guys, I really hope that you enjoy this interview. I hope that you get a lot out of it and you realize that we really have a responsibility as sex educators and just human beings to reduce the stigma associated with sex work. The long and the short of it is, it's another way to make gainful employment and to share a passion that you have with the world, basically. Sex work is the oldest profession, but I believe it's one of probably the least respected. So I hope that getting a glimpse into this family's lives really encourages you to do some of your own research and limit the stigma. So without further ado, here they are, Miss Jasmine, King, Monty, and Star. Oh yeah, and Majesty makes an appearance too. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy and have a great day. So, guys, I am super excited. I am sitting with the family behind P.orn and Parenting. Apparently, you can't say porn on Instagram. I don't know why. But I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves and then tell us a little bit about the page and how it came about.
Okay, we'll start. I'm Star. Can you say your age also, please? I'm Star and I'm 15.
And I hear you're the quiet one, so I know that's you put you on the spot. Sorry, Monty.
No, you're good. I'm Monty. I'm 19. I'm Jasmine.
And my name is King.
But y'all don't have to put your ages? No.
We don't have a certain age. After you get over a certain age, you don't have to. It's the gift.
So no. We also have Majesty, who's napping, and he's one. He may be joining us.
Okay.
So
know when he's awake.
yes. The parenting bit came about long before the page, actually. We have been touring our sex positive parenting and porn and parenting workshop for about a year and a half now.
Probably 2 now.
Maybe 2. Well, I was already carrying Majesty at the time. The conversation has always come up. How do sex workers or even just, people who are adults that are openly engaging sexually and talking about sex, how do they have families? How do they, what do they talk about? What do they eat? What pretty basic questions and interests into lives of people who have alternative relationships, alternative lifestyles. And so King and I have been pretty open about our family since yeah, and since about that time. And then when I became pregnant, we decided that we were going to continue working. We didn't want to hide, our pregnancy. And we just decided to go ahead and open up the dialogue with our community about what it's like to be in the adult industry and be parents, what it's like to be a parent and want to raise sex positive children, what it's to have an alternative relationship and share that with your children as well.
So, Star and Ambani, how was it for you when this came about, or when you learned about your parents' industry?
I don't think it was like a big thing. For me, it wasn't a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind it. I don't completely understand it, but I don't need to. So.
That's interesting because I'm nosy. It's all get out. So I'd be like, "What, Mom? What's that?" So, how has it impacted you? I think, Monty, I may have seen, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, there was some bullying when you were coming up through school. And I love, Jasmine, that you got homegirl right together when it was appropriate. So you had to wait a while to do that. So, Monty, how did that impact you?
Well, I mean, it didn't bother me per se because I eat good, I look good, live good. So it was kind of like, oh, you're so sad that this is what we do, and like that I'm okay with it. And a lot of kids kind of brought it to me as a like, oh, did you know? It's like, yeah, I live there. Yeah. Like, I mean, as a teenager, if you are secure enough in yourself, you can be secure with the things that happen in your family. So I was fine.
And that's really hard for a lot of teenagers. So Jasmine and King, what did you instill in your girls so that she has this confidence and that you're developing that with Star as well?
Yeah, so and she's got a confidence over there too. The key thing has been showing them how we develop our own confidence. It is an ongoing thing. Every single day that we wake up, we work to improve ourselves, and we make that known. Like, I'm working on this because I need to be sharper in this department. I have a goal, and they'll be like, why? That you're doing fine in that already. No, because I want it to be like this. And so they're constantly seeing our own self-development. And I think when children are able to see the process, they know it's not something that you're born with, that you actively work on into your adulthood. So they've been working on building their confidence as long as they can remember, and will continue to do so. At least that's our plan, and what we continue to show them.
Yeah.
I think since I've been a part of the family, the girls know that my motto in life is I'd rather people hate me for who I am than love me for who I ain't.
Amen.
And I'm very big on telling them, like, people are going to try to judge you. People are going to try to hate you for whatever you do. So you might as well be yourself unapologetically to the fullest extent, as long as you're not out there hurting other people or stepping on other people's toes. Like, if you're living your life the best way you know how, and you're striving to be the greatest person that you can be, then usually it's other people's insecurities and things that they hate about themselves that they're just trying to pin on you. And just as a family, we spend time together, we do things together, we better ourselves as individuals, but we also talk, and find ways as a family to better support one another. So there's no reason for them to be lacking any kind of confidence in who they are and who the other people that they share space with are.
Right.
And we correlate anybody that comes against our family. We tear them down in this house. So
they ain't shit.
I've seen, and I think that's how I kind of ended up towards your page, because I was like, yes, Mama Bear, get it. It's really interesting that you even had to put that out there that, hey, we're a normal family. We brush our teeth in the morning. We take showers. What is that? Like, how do you explain your line of work, or do you? Shots fired.
Most days we try. How do we explain it? Within our family or
publicly?
Well, I mean, I think it's not something that when we step into a space we just announce, especially when we're children. But when people do know who we are, what we do, a lot of people within our industry, they hide that aspect of their lives as if it's something to be ashamed of, like they're ashamed of having kids or they're ashamed of their work when they're at home. But there's no reason to look at yourselves as, well, for people to look at themselves as less because they are in sex work. I think it's just like, it's crazy where it's like a society that we live in where the violence is accepted, but something that got us all here on this planet is something that's frowned upon.
Yeah.
As long as it's done respectfully, it's like it's always age appropriate. It's not like we're sitting here showing our movies on the TV or anything like that. Got you. So, it's respectful of our kids and where they are at the stages of their life, and they're respectful of us, and that's the part that's important. So I think, when you hide something, that's when it becomes disrespectful.
Absolutely.
If I'm lying to my kids, that's disrespectful.
It reminds me of like Alicia Keys' lyric. She said, what if sex was holy and war was obscene? Like, it would be so much more loving and peaceful, and people would be open and more comfortable with themselves. I think it's interesting you bring up lying. So, King, my dad gave out condoms to my 4 brothers and left me out. You're doing unboxing videos with your daughter. Tell me about that as a dad. How is that?
Oh man, the thing that I found for the scratching was worth the whole unboxing.
Really? You seem to really enjoy that.
Oh yeah, the head massager.
But
That thing was
like
amazing.
it had a name.
I don't know, but
yeah,
wonderfulness. But no, it's important that both of them know that they can make their own decisions in regards to sex. They're not a man's property. They're no one's to be owned by, that they are completely autonomous, but they have to also have the knowledge of self and the knowledge of their bodies and health and all of these things. So that way, when they do go out in the world, we get back to confidence. They're confident that they're going to make the right decision that's best for them, for their happiness, for their pleasure, and their safety all at the same time.
Right. So I have a son and a daughter. My son is 7. My daughter is 1. What I've noticed is she's only 1, but I'm already feeling that discomfort with like sexual stuff. How would you suggest a parent get over that? Because for some reason it is easier to bring it up with the boys than the girls for a lot of people.
Well, I think even asking that question, like, why am I so uncomfortable with this, right? And so that was what I feel has been a transition for me as a mother is, why am I so uncomfortable with this? I'm so uncomfortable with this because I've never experienced this conversation. I have no idea. I don't know what it's like to be on the receiving end. So I don't know what what I should say or shouldn't say. And everything around me has taught me, like, women are so delicate that we can't protect ourselves, we don't know what we want, we don't like all of these limitations, but asking myself like why is this so uncomfortable? And then the more you realize it has nothing to do with you, it has everything to do with the shame that has been put upon you, what you've been told that you can and cannot talk about. Those are not rules that you created for yourself. And I think the more I became more open to recognizing that I was just kind of following suit. And that made me more uncomfortable than the conversation. The thought of I was raising my children based on what someone else thought, or didn't think, or that I was taking parenting advice from parents that I don't respect, parents that, like, I don't think that their kids turned out so wonderful. And so maybe that discussion may not have been the best decision. And so I think asking yourself, why am I not doing this? And if the only barrier is what other people said, or just that you're not sure, then that's not a reason not to parent and raise your children. That means that you need to get the resources and you need to figure out a way. Everything that we do, especially parenting the first time, and each kid is an individual first time, everything that we do, it's our first time. And so we can't just pick the easy things and leave the hard things out. We have to figure it all out, whether it is how to handle a blowout diaper, how to, a temper tantrum. All of those things are hard. And so we don't really get to pick as a parent, but society will let us have a break until our kids do something that's sexually inappropriate or sexually unacceptable. And then it's like, well, why didn't you teach your kids? But all along we've been told, like, right, that you don't have those conversations, those are uncomfortable. You shouldn't be talking to your children about that. It's going to encourage them to, do X, Y, and Z. So, I mean, I do think that there's some the gender difference that is like, has its own can of worms.
Yeah, I think a lot of times there's this perception in society that, if a boy does it, it's the boys being boys. But if a girl does it, then she somehow lost her purity.
Mm-hmm.
We're always trying to protect this like mythological idea of keeping a woman pure, because that comes from the past when, when you would trade your daughter for however many goats somebody got or land or whatever, you wanted to be able to promise them that this girl was quote unquote pure.
Right.
And that's where I think a lot of our, like, people still are holding on to that, and a lot of these like social mores that we have in regards to how we raise girls so differently than we raise boys, and it winds up being that we over shelter, over protect, and really do a disservice to our daughters by trying to like cut an entire part of human existence off from them, and then in turn we turn our boys into douchebags,
right,
because everything they do is okay. So like just recently I was reading about this article in Europe where a group of Israeli boys raped this woman from the United Kingdom. I think it happened in Cyprus. And they kind of chalked it up to some boys being boys, and when they were leaving Cyprus they were chanting something like the UK girl's a whore or something like that, and popping champagne in the airport. Now, they were acquitted or they didn't push the charges or whatever, but those kind of actions, if that's how they act, then they should be reprimanded for that. But instead, it's like boys being boys. And now this woman who was a victim is treated as if something is wrong with her and she did something wrong when all she did was.
And the motto in my house is boys will be held accountable and boys will be respectful. Like, there's no boys being boys. But Star and Monty, you ladies are pretty much the stars of P.orn and Parenting. Don't tell your parents. Star, I was looking at your video about dating advice with mom, and you were saying, there's more avenues for advice, but parents are kind of the example. And then you said, yeah, and I'm single. What's up with that?
They make it look like a lot of work.
It is.
It is a lot of work. So you're 15, correct? This is the time where kids are really pushing boundaries and exploring relationships and things like that. Are you maybe talking to multiple people, or how do you manage your dating life? I don't.
Fans. I focus on school and sports.
Look, a lot of people probably wish they did in high school. So, okay, cool. Now, Monty, you know, I have to bring it up. Think about it. The dentist video.
Like, what's she about to bring? Oh, Mr.
How are you managing?
He's Mr. now. He's not my doctor anymore.
Oh, snap.
Okay. So I saw, and you know, I appreciate your parents talk a lot about consent, and I appreciate that, Jasmine, you noted I posted this with consent. What made you say, yes, Mom, you can post that?
Too funny. It's too funny for people. Well, part of it is that everybody thinks that my sister is the funniest person in the world.
Oh, okay. I have to see.
Only on doctor admitted drugs. But it was really funny, and a lot of people I don't post a lot on my social media, so people don't really know me like that. And I feel like that was a good way for people to kind of see what I'm like on my normal day to day. It is that range of
You
emotions.
just be on Novocaine day to day, though.
My emotions run on Novocaine.
Yes. As much.
But all of the crying and then the laughter
And the Christmas song.
all of it. That's my day to day.
My favorite part is he's not taking her to Greece. Like, what are you going over there for if you're not going to Greece? Like,
Why that just wasn't happening. It was their honeymoon. I said, I've been to Greece. Why can't she go?
right. Like, what are you really doing if you're not going to Greece? I thought that was really interesting. I love to see you guys playing with majesty and being normal, everyday parents, which I don't see why people don't think you would be. But one that I actually caught up on today was the massages. And I love what you said, Jasmine, about that really is teaching them about consent, about appropriate touch, what feels good, what doesn't, and having autonomy over their bodies. Where did that come from? I would have never thought of massages in that way.
That really came to, if I had to kind of like pinpoint when I thought like, you know what, this is something that I got to figure out a better way of doing, is Star. I have to tell this story. When she was like maybe 5 or 6,
Mm-hmm.
had to go to the doctor for what may have been like a UTI.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember this.
When they found my stomach?
Yeah. But so the doctor wanted to examine her whole body, and she was gonna have to take off her underwear, and they were gonna need to check down there. And she was not okay with it. And she, I was trying to do right now I consider like the bare minimum, which is like, well, mommy's gonna stay in the room and this is what's gonna happen, right? Because at that point I thought like, at least if you're in the room and you're explaining what's gonna happen, then you're doing like grade A parenting.
Mm-hmm.
But there's another level of that, which is the consent piece. And I wasn't exactly familiar with that, because the way I grew up was there was no question. The doctor is going to do what the doctor is going to do. And why are you even talking? I thought you were sick. So she was like, no. And I was like, oh. Well, yeah, how am I going to explain this to the doctor now?
Yeah.
And she's like, nobody's going to look down there. Period. So I was like, but what if the nurse is there too? Like, she's a lady,
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, no, like, basically, I don't care who's gonna be here, but they're not gonna look down my underwear. And so I had asked the nurse, is there anything else that we can do other than the physical exam that will help them like narrow down whatever was wrong? And they were like, oh yeah, like we can like do it like a urinalysis. I think
did that in an ultrasound.
yeah, whatever they it did not, it wasn't necessary for them to do a vaginal exam. And in that moment, I was like, whew, like, okay, good. We'll, and everything was okay. But she was able to say, like, I don't want this procedure done. I was able to talk to the healthcare provider, come to find out there was something that was a lot less invasive than doing a vaginal exam on a 7. Yeah, I think she was like 6 or 7. And it taught me in that moment, like, if you speak up, right, there might be some other options. And 2, like, it was one of the moments where I had said, like, everything that I had taught her up to that point, nobody's supposed to look down in your underwear. Don't let nobody touch you there. I don't care who it is, all of this stuff. Here's the moment, and she's like, everything you taught me, no. And so from that point, it was just like, okay, well, what are some other ways to teach them to talk to healthcare providers, body workers, whatever, people in general. Also, just knowing the kind of games that guys used to try to run on me when I was younger, like, yeah, let me just, rub your shoulders. I let him rub my shoulders. Now he wants to rub somewhere else, and not really having the language or the words to say, like, just say. They were boys. Yeah. And then they turned into men, and then
You just gotta update it for now and feel like, let me put on this Netflix.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, we're gonna watch one show, and then I'm leaving. Yeah.
And I love that you teach them to say no, thank you. Just, I mean, it doesn't have to be abrasive. It could be respectful to the other person, and it should be respected.
And that's like one of the easiest ways to learn if somebody is going to be okay to be around. Because if you're politely giving a no thank you and the person is pushing, then it's pretty easy. Like, they're not going to respect any boundaries from this point forward. Same thing goes with doctors and providers. If you say, like, we're not really interested in this type of procedure, and they can't give you another option, then that's not who you want working on you.
Right.
So I think some of these examples in the regular world outside of sex and sexuality can be applied, but we got to give our kids some room to practice. It's not like you don't just jump from your parents speaking for you to automatically you can make demands and requests of yourself without ever having an opportunity to do it in a non-threatening, non-intimate environment. So massage is the easiest way.
So there are so many questions, so many directions I could go in, and I don't want to keep you guys all night, but I just want to ask King, what do you want people to know about your family and your sex positive mission with porn and parenting?
Good question. I think first and foremost about our family that, you can be in the adult entertainment industry or just entertainment in general and still raise brilliant, healthy children. You can be involved in their lives. You can have an alternative relationship like we do with being polyamorous and an opportunist.
You guys what?
This is the first time hearing of this. Runouts crying.
There's something that we've been meaning to tell you.
Y'all know I'm fragile.
Please do not Jerry Springer the babies. Not on here. Your first interview cannot go like that.
Y'all know everything.
And I think it even goes like beyond just the sex aspects of it, that you don't have to lie to your kids. And this goes for whatever the case being, whether it be your relationship, your lifestyle, your profession, all of these things. You can be upfront, open, and honest with your kids as long as it's a you know, age appropriate. You know, we're not gonna have the same conversation with the baby that we have with the girls. And that Omani is now that is over 18, you know, she can have conversations that Star cannot, you know, and it's just a lot of times people say you have to have that talk with your kids. Did you have the talk? And did you tell them about the birds and the bees? And I always say, like, you know, birds don't fuck bees. You need to have an actual real conversation with your children about sex.
Yeah.
And that conversation is something that is continuous, you know, like with baby, we start with the baby, giving him the anatomically correct terminology for his body parts. So he won't be ashamed of his body parts. And if he needs to speak up when he's in school or speak up when he's outside of somebody not to touch him in inappropriate areas, he won't be afraid to speak up for himself. And the girls are now older, so they'll be able to, they've had it put into their heads for years, so they'll be able to speak up for themselves, and also, you know, some training to fight back and all that good stuff.
And
And then
I love that honesty opens up options. I'm sorry, King. It opens up relationship options they may not have even known existed. I know I didn't. So for my parents, if they would have told me these things are out here. So I apologize for interrupting. Go ahead.
No, you're good. And I mean, I think that's a good point because they don't have to be polyamorous when they grow up. They might be monogamous. They might not want to be with anybody. They might be asexual and not be interested in it in that kind of way. But to know that that's also an option because everything else is also possible. And putting that out there, like, yo, be yourself, be confident, and stick to your guns. Don't let anybody else try to change your mind for what it is that you want for yourself. And hopefully, it's going to be able to share that with other people because I know there are a lot of other parents who are just like, you know, the way I was raised in regards to sex was bad for me growing up, or I didn't learn anything growing up. So we're trying to show that there's a healthy way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Girls, is there anything you want everyone to know about your family or being a child of adult entertainers? Or
I don't know if there's anything like specific. Other oh God, Olivia, Star. Anything?
Oh no, I said nothing.
she gave me the head nod real quick. Jasmine, I just want to say that's another added thing that I love about your family is breastfeeding in public and making that, normalizing that, especially for Black women, because we need to get back to that. And I love it. So since the girls don't want to leave us with something, how about you, Jasmine?
Yeah, breastfeeding in public because there's no, I mean, where else are we gonna go? But, I really want people to be able to take what we're doing with our family and tweak it for theirs. You know, I think that there's different aspects of our family that people will gravitate towards. Like we are already getting comments like, you know, people relating to us like characters, which is fine. You know, like, oh, she reminds me so much of me when I was 15, or my daughter is definitely more like your oldest than your youngest, and that's super important. If we can see ourselves in the examples that we're offering, it really is just our life. So sometimes I'm like, is it interesting? I really don't. Well, because
you need not say that while we getting interviewed.
Well, I find it very interesting. And I mean, going back to what you were saying, King, is totally off topic. But I would tell people I believe monogamy is not natural, and I would get the weirdest looks. Like I was saying this from high school, and I got the weirdest look, and then I grew up, and then people were talking about polyamorous relationships, and I was like, I was on to something. Like it may not feel natural to a lot of people, and you know, having someone to go to who's experienced that is awesome. So I just want to thank you all so much for spending time with me tonight. Other than P.orn and Parenting, is there any other social media you guys want people to look out for?
Well, Monty Baby 1019. Yeah, that's what it is. My Instagram.
Okay. Miss Star, you got anything?
Your TikTok.
Like, check out her SoundCloud.
Star is so Marshawn Lynch. She's like, I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Yes. No, you want to tell her about the quote thing with her?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah. So Mom had asked us to send an inspirational quote that makes us want to like get up in the morning to put in our bathrooms with a nice picture of us.
I saw those. Mm-hmm.
We all did something really sweet and meaningful. Hers was YOLO. And that's just who she is.
That's who
To the point. Facts. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Please check out our other pages. Jet Setting Jasmine on Instagram.
King Noir, KINGNOIRE on all forms of social
I
media.
can't find that on
Do you want to
Instagram.
promote
Because I
yours?
blocked you.
Max?
Oh.
Yeah, we're all blocked from each other.
Okay. That keeps it safe. That way you don't have any Jerry Springer moments.
And Majesty is at SR Majesty. Let's see, other things coming up. We are
So handsome. Hello.
continuing to take our P.orn and Parenting class on the road. And we are also looking at continuing our college tour. We've been doing a fantasy sex versus reality at universities all over the place, helping college students.
We see who runs the show. We see who runs the show.
What's real from adult entertainment and how things are a little bit different in real sex.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta go now.
Well, I'm in South Carolina, and I will definitely be hitting you up because we're in the Bible Belt, so we need you here. Okay.
We'll be in Charleston.
We'll be in
Wait, in
Charleston,
April?
and we'll also be in
Charlotte.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm from Charleston. I will see you there. I'm excited.
Look forward to meeting you in person. Thank you for having us.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Y'all have a great night.
Likewise.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.